What is good, backloggers? After two massively successful Sonic the Hedgehog games, I guess it's safe to say that fans want more of Sega's new mascot. So, with the Sega CD, an expansion pack for the Genesis not doing all too well and being in need of a serious system seller, the obvious next step for the series is to throw everything that people love about the series out of the way and completely shift the focus for the next entry. Wait a second. Welcome to the Backlog project, where we play through a gigantic backlog of games and you get to choose which one will be covered next. Just head down to the description of the video to take part in our weekly poll and pick your favorite. Story-wise, this game doesn't really do much more than the other games in the series. This time, Sonic's girlfriend Amy gets introduced and used as a convenient plot device by being kidnapped, so your goal, in addition to saving the world from Dr. Robotnik once again, is to rescue the damsel in distress. What sets the game apart a little is that it plays on the so-called Little Planet that is somehow anchored to Sonic's world by Dr. Robotnik and has a special property, allowing time travel. Sonic needs to use this to his advantage by traveling back in time in each level to destroy Robotnik's robots and thus create a safe and good future for all of Little Planet. This may all sound kinda out there and will come into play much more when we talk about the gameplay, so just take this as is for now. We don't want to break the flow of the video here by going off script. Sonic CD, by the way, also marks the first appearance of Metal Sonic, a robot built by Robotnik to rival the real Hedgehog's speed in an attempt to finally beat his nemesis. It doesn't really play a large role though. You have one boss fight against it where it gets destroyed and that's it, never to be seen again. Did you know that Sonic CD was originally supposed to be an enhanced port of the original Sonic the Hedgehog to make use of the Sega CD's capabilities? Well, Oshima Naoto, the guy who designed Sonic and was the lead artist on the first game, helmed this project and it somehow got off the rails, and in trying to show off the Sega CD, they just developed a completely new game. Probably also didn't help that none of the actual Sonic team worked on this project. My point here is, this game looks a lot like Sonic the Hedgehog, as in the first one, just better. Couldn't do something like this sick loop with the moving background on the Genesis, could you? Apart from a few neat scenes like this, the only thing that really stands out graphically are the special stages. Once again, Sega's English seems to have failed them, and they have translated special as weird as. I really don't know why, but the team was hell-bent on making you play a psychedelic bootleg version of Super Mario Kart to showcase the CD's power, and they certainly succeeded in showing something off, just that what they showed off is in serious need of a restraining order because it feels like visual assault. I do love this sprite of Sonic just giving up on life though. Contrary to the samey graphics, Sonic CD's soundtrack couldn't be any more different from the other Sonic games. Hataya Naofumi and Ogata Masafumi, who both worked but didn't compose on the scores of other Sonic games, went all out to make this their music, and holy hell did they succeed. The first level, Palm Tree Panic, is similar enough to Green Hill Zone in style. Upbeat, cheery, and just Sonic, albeit with some weird voice samples this time. When you use the time travel mechanic, the music also changes. Going to the past transforms the track into a more laid-back, peaceful, and almost tribal version. If you go to the future before fixing it, however, you will be met with heavy drum and bass beats. A driving piano replaces the brass from before, and the happy voices singing alongside the track in the past and present versions are distorted to sound like the wailing cries of a dying people. If I didn't know any better, I would expect a transformation like that from some jump scare filled horror game, not Sonic the Hedgehog. But it really is Sonic, and I'm all for it. Going further in, the music gets ever more experimental, using lots of piano and incorporating environmental sounds directly into the tracks, as heard in Collision Chaos for example. And all of these tracks have different versions that remix the present music into something wholly new every time. Something worth mentioning is that the game also makes heavy use of the aforementioned voice samples with actual singing, speaking, and even hip-hop vocals. And the best thing about this soundtrack? There's two completely different versions, because the US got a tailor-made soundtrack made by Spencer Nilsson, David Young, and Mark Crew. And not only is it different, it's also different. Both OSTs take completely different approaches to how the game would sound, but miraculously, both fit like a glove. While I personally prefer the more video game-ish Japanese version, the US soundtrack gives the game a much more atmospherical, exploration-style feeling that fits well with the general redesign of the gameplay. I constantly say that the gameplay is different, so how about we talk about that in detail now, since you're probably already on the edge of your seat. Or not, the video isn't that exciting, is it? By the way, if you enjoy the video so far, or just want to be nice, go ahead and hit that like button to let YouTube know this video is worth showing to more people. Thank you. So, on a first glance, Sonic CD kinda looks like your average Sonic game, right? You run and jump through different themed levels, do spin dashes, and collect rings. Dr. Robotnik is your enemy, you try to save the poor animals from being turned into robots, and you're super fast. So even though there's a new gimmick in the form of time travel, the game is still very much a Sonic game, right? Wrong. Well, kind of. The base design is definitely still Sonic. It is based off Sonic 1's code after all. But that time travel gimmick is much more than just that. It turns the whole way the game was designed on its head. Since your objective isn't only to reach the end of a level anymore, but also travel through the different time periods in each stage to turn the horrible, robot and great music infested future world into a peaceful one, the levels had to be designed accordingly. First of all, bar a few exceptions, the levels are fully explorable at all times, meaning you can always go back to the beginning of each level even from right at its end, as to not lock you out of your way to the stage's hidden robot factory. The result of this is a much less streamlined, more exploration-focused level design than what you would see in conventional Sonic games. To make my point a bit clearer, here's the map of Sonic 2's first level, Emerald Hill Zone. Apart from a few splitting paths, the level is mostly linear and every path you take will lead you pretty much straight to the stage's goalpost. Take a look at Sonic CD's first level in comparison. It's a decent chunk shorter, but also much more tightly packed with hidden routes that take the stage into a much more vertical direction. Not to mention the expansive cave systems that are just absent in Sonic 2. And Sonic 1 for the matter, because the level design of that is even simpler. While exploring these levels, you will often come across these signs that either say, and I mean say, out loud, or future. They work like the checkpoints in that they activate once you pass them, but for the time travel to activate, you need to keep maximum speed for a few seconds. It's still Sonic after all. Once you manage to slip through time and space, you'll arrive in another version of the current level that mostly shares the same layout, but has some differences here and there, as well as new enemies and secrets. The time travel itself, by the way, happens rather fast and fluidly. Once activated, it goes into a loading screen for around 1 second, and you pop back out exactly where you entered the warp. This is probably the best showcase of the Sega CD's power, and for the time it came out, seriously impressive game design that makes the whole game flow very well. Even though you can enter the future before the past, and doing so is certainly fun to do to see what happens to Little Planet if you don't save it, you technically only have to do one thing to clear a level. Go back to the past and destroy the robot manufacturing machine there. Once that is done, it doesn't matter in which timeline you reach the goalpost, the level is successfully cleared once you destroy the machine. Well, technically you can just book it to the goalpost in each level and reach the ending of the game, but it will just end in a cutscene showing you that you failed to save Little Planet and urge you to try again. Thankfully, Sonic CD only has one underwater level, so that automatically makes it the de facto best 2D Sonic game. But honestly, the best experience you can have in Sonic CD is by doing the following. Start each level by exploring until you find a future sign. Go to the future, experience the dreadful visuals and crazy remixes of the soundtrack, and then go back to the past. Find and destroy the machine, then go to the future again to see how your actions change the outcome. If you can manage to make a good future in each zone, you will get the true and happy ending after defeating the final boss. Speaking of bosses, the game takes a bit of a different approach here as well. Whereas Sonic 1 and 2 mostly have typical 2D platformer bosses that require you to hit them a few times while repeating their attack patterns, Sonic CD's bosses are more like survival challenges. They usually either defeat themselves or just take one hit to defeat, but getting to that point requires dodging attacks and obstacles for a while. While Sonic controls mostly the same as in the first game, he did get one upgrade to his arsenal. Most of you probably know his spinning legs that look like an infinity sign from his more modern appearances like in Super Smash Bros. But did you know this animation actually originated in Sonic CD and is a separate move? Well, I didn't, because I played through the whole thing without even knowing it exists, and only found out due to my good friend and fellow YouTuber VGM Osillo telling me about it later. Much like the spin dash, a staple of Sonic's arsenal that is activated by pressing down and the jump button, Sonic CD gives you the ability to activate the so-called super peel out by pressing up and the jump button. It works similarly to the spin dash in that it gives you a fast start from a standing position, just that it doesn't make you spin, so you're still vulnerable. This kind of makes the move rather useless, since the game is still filled with enemies, so going too fast without any defensive measures is just asking for a dangerously low ring count. Oh, if this is somehow your first encounter with Sonic games, rings are your HP, and you die if you get hit without having some on hand. Anyways, the peel out is mostly useless, but it's cool to see where it came from and how, even though it doesn't provide much benefit, became a staple in Sonic's character design. Just like in other games in the series, if you reach the goalpost with at least 50 rings, a giant ring will appear for you to jump into and transport you to this game's special stages. I alluded to this in the beginning, but these stages are weird. It puts you into a semi-3D space that looks very much like a Super Mario Kart track and tasks you with destroying UFOs by jumping into them. There isn't really much more to it other than the fact that you're on a rather strict timer and the UFOs move around in seemingly random patterns, making them very hard to hit, and you will likely fail these stages a lot. Oh, they also look like Mario shared some of his mushrooms with Sonic, so my theory of Sonic the Hedgehog being a drug addict gets confirmed once again. I wonder what they got in store for us in Sonic 3. This time around, the developers had mercy on us players and made these abundantly horrible pieces of gameplay entirely optional. No more having to collect all Chaos Emeralds to reach the true ending. If you are, for some reason, damaged enough to want to play these stages, they will still reward you with an emerald for each successful completion, and collecting all 7 will instantly destroy all bad futures in the game, meaning that you could theoretically play through the game while completely ignoring the time travel mechanic, play it like any other Sonic game and still get the good ending by everything just magically defaulting to being dandy if you have all the stones. Kinda dumb, but I guess it's good to have for those few weird people out there who would prefer those special stages to the, you know, actually fun time traveling mechanic that the game was completely designed around. Oh, and there's no Super Sonic in this game, given how development started before Sonic 2 was even out, so the special stages are really mostly superfluous. By the way, the Sonic Origins version that this review is based on also offers around 30 challenge stages for you to dive into after finishing the game that give you changed levels with new objectives, as well as a boss rush and mirror mode to round off the experience. Calling Sonic CD experimental might be understating how much of a departure from the usual experience it really is. Not only is the gameplay very different, the more mature and gritty setting, with Robotnik not just being the quirky villain but an actual threat to a planet full of life, gives the game a new feeling of urgency and makes Sonic's adventure more immersive than ever before. Even if you prefer the more speed-oriented entries in the series, Sonic CD is a game that should be on the must-play list of not just every Sonic the Hedgehog, but also platformer game fans in general. After completing Sonic CD, we had 3 hours and 9 minutes of total playtime, good futures created in 14 levels, 7 Chaos Emeralds collected even though it was kind of pointless, 30 additional challenge levels completed on S rank, 1 death due to drowning because water levels still suck. Hope you enjoyed the video, thank you very much for watching, and remember to always keep that backlog rolling.